Hello everybody, how are you guys doing? Hope everybody is doing amazingly well. Welcome back to another lesson of English with Ashish. And guys, today in this lesson, we are going to understand a beautiful expression, an expression that can make you sound more fluent, that can make you sound more native. So the expression is would you mind or do you mind? So we'll learn how to use this expression, when to use this expression, where to use this expression, and what is the difference between would you mind and do you mind. So the lesson is gonna be fun, it's gonna be advanced, it's gonna make you sound more native, it's gonna make you sound more fluent. Make sure you watch it until the end. I'm excited as always. I know you guys are too. Let's do this. Alright everybody, the very first thing you should know is that both these expressions, would you mind and do you mind, are often used interchangeably. Yes, they're used interchangeably, but there is a difference. We'll talk about the difference as well. Now, let's understand the meaning of the word mind here in both these expressions, in both these phrases. What does mind mean here? Would you mind? Do you mind? What does mind mean here? See guys, the word mind here means to be bothered, to be troubled, to be annoyed by something. So when you say would you mind, meaning would you have a problem, would you be annoyed, right? Would you have a problem with something, would you be annoyed with something, all right? Do you mind, do you have a problem with something under a particular case, if I do this or if I did this, all right? So this is what the expression means. You might have a better understanding of the expression now. All right, so we use these expressions, we use these phrases in three different situations, right? Number one, to make a polite request. This is number one. Number two, to take someone's permission, that too very politely, to take someone's permission. And number three, to give a command. That is also possible, right? To give a command, to give an order. Now, we'll understand all these situations one by one. We'll understand the situations, we'll understand the context, we'll understand the structures, and we'll understand how to use these expressions in these situations. All right, let's start with the very first situation, to take someone's permission. Now, understand the situation first. Do not look at the structure, do not look at the example. Try to understand the context. You have to understand the context, right? Now, if you want to do something, you are going to do something, right? You're about to do something, or you're thinking about doing something in the future, near future, and you think that particular action or you doing that particular action might give somebody a problem, might cause somebody a trouble, a problem. You basically use this structure to take that person's permission. All right, now look at the structure. Would you mind or do you mind? All right, would you mind or do you mind, followed by the subordinating conjunction if, followed by a complete clause, which means a subject, a verb, can be followed by an object or a modifier, right? At least these two things, a subject and a verb. All right, now look at the example now. All right, would you mind if I sat here? Would you mind if I sat here? So I'm not sitting here, I'm planning to sit here, I'm thinking about sitting here. So let's suppose there's a bench, all right, and you are sitting here, and I think you're waiting for somebody. You're waiting for somebody to join you, and it's not appropriate to just go there and sit next to you. I don't think it's appropriate. So I'm not doing this action right now, right? I'm just thinking about doing it in the future. So I go to you and I ask, would you mind if I sat here? Now, would you mind if I sat here? This is in the past form. The verb is in the past form. This entire structure is a second conditional sentence. This is a second conditional sentence, guys. I have a detailed lesson on conditional sentences. You can check that out. The link must be in the description. All right, so this is a second conditional sentence. This does not show a real action. It shows uncertainty. You're not doing it, right? You're thinking about doing it, right? So you basically check if it is all right to do this, right? So you basically go to the person and you say, if I did this action, if I sat here, if I did this, would it give you a problem? Would you mind that? Would you be bothered by that? So this is little uncertain. This is imaginary, all right? Now, you can make it more real by changing the verb. You can say, would you mind if I sit here? This is more real. But a lot of grammarians, a lot of teachers call it incorrect, because in a second conditional sentence, the verb has to be in the past form. Would you mind if I sat here? Would you mind if I went out? Would you mind if I took your laptop? Would you mind if I went out with your girlfriend or sister, whatever? All right. So you can either use the verb in the past form or in the base form, but there is a difference in the meaning. If you say, would you mind if I sit here? So you're basically going to sit there and you're just basically taking that person's permission. So I'm here and I'm just going there and I have, completely planned it. I'm just going to sit here. But before sitting, I just want to take your permission because I want to be nice. Okay, so let me clean this and show you something. So if I say, would you mind if I sit here? This is less formal and polite. This is considered to be less formal and polite because you have already thought of it, you've already planned it. You just go to the person and you're taking the permission, but you've already thought about it, man. This is more formal and polite because you're not gonna do the action. You want to take that person's opinion first, and whatever the person says, according to that, you'll choose your course of action. More formal and polite. Okay. So you've understood how to use the structure. Now let's take more examples and understand this in a better way. All right. Example number 1. Would you mind if I went out with your girlfriend tonight? Okay, so we are on a couch right now and we're watching TV, and I'm just thinking about going with your girlfriend. I'm just doing that right in my head, in my mind. I'm just thinking about going out with your girlfriend tonight. Okay, we got a couple of hours ahead of us. So I basically present this situation in front of you and take your approval, or basically try to or get to know what you think about it. I'm not going to do it. I haven't decided to do it. All right. I'm just trying to take your opinion. I'm just trying to know what you think about this. All right. So I ask, would you mind? Would this be a problem for you if I went out with your girlfriend? So let's suppose right now the time is 2 p.m. and I plan to go out with your girlfriend at 8 p.m. If I did this in future, would you be mad? Would you be mad in that particular, or at that particular time? Would you be mad? Would you be bothered by this? Right? If you say yes, I'd not do that. If you say no, you can go out with my girlfriend, I'd do it. Right? So I'm being very generous. I'm being very polite and formal, and I'm considering, I'm taking your opinion. Right? But if I say, would you mind if I go out with your girlfriend tonight? Right? I probably have already thought about it and I'm going to do it anyway. This is what it means, all right? But still, you're taking that person's permission, all right? You're not just going to do it, you're taking that person's permission. So I can say, would you mind if I go out with your girlfriend tonight? So this is important to understand. We generally use the structure with the verb in the past form. Would you mind if I went out? Would you mind if I did this? Would you mind if I took your money? Would you mind if I called your mother? Something like that. But you can use the verb in the base form as well. Would you mind if I use your cell for a minute? Would you mind if I use your cell for a minute? Right? Would you have a problem if I use your mobile for a minute? Right? If I do this, would that be a problem with you? All right. Okay. Third, would you mind if I sit here for a few minutes? Right? I'm just going to sit here for a couple of minutes and I want to take your permission. So I'm asking, would you mind if I sit here for a couple of minutes or for a few minutes? Would you mind that? Would you have a problem with that? No, I won't. Okay. All right, the last example. Would you mind if I called you in an hour? All right, so you're waiting for my call and you leave me a message. When are you calling me? And I say, would you mind if I called you in an hour? All right, meaning I just want to get to know what you think about this. If I called you in an hour, if I do this action after an hour or maybe in an hour, would you have a problem with that? Right? So I'm using the verb in the past form, right? Uncertain action, right? I can also say, would you mind if I call you in an hour? That is absolutely fine. See, in real life, in colloquial language, in daily communication, it is absolutely fine. Whether you use the verb in the past form, in the base form, it is absolutely fine. But in terms of its grammar, in terms of its technicality, this is the difference. All right. Now, I can also use the expression do you mind in place of would you mind. So in all these expressions, in all these examples, I can also use the expression do you mind. Do you mind if I went out with your girlfriend? Do you mind if I use your cell for a minute? Do you mind if I, all these expressions, all these examples can be replaced with the expression do you mind. Now give me a second. But there is a difference when you do that. So the expression do you mind can be used in all these examples, but it slightly changes the meaning of the sentence. It does that. Right. Now there are two things that make a difference. Number one, do you mind is less formal. It is. Do you mind that? Would you mind that? Would you mind is more formal, more polite, and do you mind is considered to be less formal, in comparison to would you mind. All right. So people use it less. People use would you mind more. All right. This is the very first difference. Second difference is would refers to uncertainty. Would is used in imaginary cases, imaginary situations, right? Conditional sentences. Would is usually used in conditional sentences, right? So would you mind is more uncertain, imaginary, and do you mind is more real. Okay, this is the second difference. Now let me show you some examples and make you understand. Okay, so we can take the earlier examples, right? We can say, do you mind if I go out with your girlfriend tonight? Do you mind that? Right? We can also say, do you mind if I went out with your girlfriend? Do you mind if I use your cell for a minute? Do you mind if I sit here for a minute, right? For a few minutes. Do you mind if I sat here for a few minutes? That is also fine, right? Do you mind if I called you in an hour? It is perfectly fine. Do you mind if I call you in an hour? That is also perfectly fine. With do you mind, we generally use the verb in the base form. This is what we have observed. It's not a rule. This is something that we have observed. You can either use the verb in the base form or in the simple past form. All right. Okay. So this is the very first case. Now, before we move on to the second case, let's understand how to answer this question, right? If somebody asked you this question, how would you reply? How would you answer? So if you say, would you mind if I sit here? Or would you mind if I sat here? Now, if you do not have a problem with that, you'll say no, please. Or no, absolutely not, have a seat. Or if you have a problem with that, you'll say, sorry, yes, I do have a problem, or I would, right? Somebody's waiting for me, or somebody's going to come here. I'm waiting for somebody, so you cannot sit here, right? So if you want to say that I do have a problem with that, you say, yes, I do have a problem, right? I'm sorry, somebody is waiting for me. Sorry, the seat is for somebody else. Sorry, somebody's going to join me, right? So if you have a problem, reply with yes. If you do not have a problem, say no, absolutely not. Please do that. All right. Now, let's move on to the second situation, which is to request a person to perform an action for you. This is completely different. Now, if you want a person to do an action for you, if you want a person to perform an action, to do an action for you. This is the structure you use, right? So you start the sentence with would you mind or do you mind, followed by a gerund phrase. You start the sentence with would you mind, which is more common here. You can also say do you mind, followed by a gerund phrase. Gerund and its object or modifier. All right. So look at this example and understand this. Would you mind passing that bottle to me? Would you mind passing that bottle? So passing that bottle is the gerund phrase. All right. This is the gerund phrase. This is the gerund passing, and this is the object of the gerund, that bottle, right? That bottle. Passing what? That bottle. So you want the person to do an action for you. You are basically requesting somebody to do something for you. Would you mind passing that bottle? All right. So the person you're requesting is performing an action for you. Is not literally performing right now. You're basically requesting the person to perform an action, to do an action for you, and you're requesting that. All right. Would you mind passing that bottle? Or do you mind passing that bottle? Right. Would you mind is more formal, is more polite. So say, would you mind passing that bottle, sir? Would you mind clicking a picture of us, right? Something like that. Let me give you more examples. Example number 1. Would you mind sharing your food with us? Would you mind doing something? Would you mind sharing your food with us? Would you mind this? Would you mind doing this, right? So we want you to share your food with us, right? So we are basically requesting that, and we are also checking if that is a problem with you, right? If doing this is a problem with you. So would you mind sharing your food with us? Obviously we can say, could you share your food with us, right? Share your food with us, we can say that, right? You can say, can you share your food with us, right? You can also say that. But this, would you mind sharing your food with us, is very, very polite. You can use this expression. And there is no problem in using, can you share your food with us, or could you share your food with us? This is absolutely fine. But would you mind is more polite in my eyes, right? So I'd rather use this one, right? Would you mind shifting a bit? You're sitting in a bus, sitting in a metro, and you're very close to somebody, and you feel uncomfortable. So you say, would you mind shifting a bit, right? Would you mind shifting a bit, right? Would you mind shifting a bit? Can you shift a bit? Could you shift a bit? This is what you mean. Shifting a bit is the gerund phrase. All right. Would you mind clicking our pictures? Would you mind clicking our pictures, right? We want you to click our pictures, and we want to ask if that is a problem with you, right? Can you do that? Can you do that? Like, is it a problem? Can you do that? Could you click our pictures? Can you click our pictures? Would you mind clicking our pictures? All right. And the answer is going to be no, absolutely not. Not at all, right? Absolutely not. If you don't have a problem with that, right? But if you do, you'll say, yes, I gotta go, right? I'm waiting for somebody. I gotta go somewhere, right? I'm in a hurry, right? Something like that. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. I'm afraid I can't. I gotta go somewhere, right? I'm on a phone, something like that. Okay. Now, this is the third situation. To order someone to do something, to give a command, someone to do something, or ask a question, generally in an angry manner. Angrily. Okay. Let's look at this conversation. Student. He says, or she says, I don't understand this, in a muffled voice, right? The voice is not clear. I don't understand it. The teacher is teaching and the student says, I don't understand this. The voice is not clear. It's muffled. Okay. And the teacher says, would you mind standing up and repeating yourself? So the teacher says, stand up and repeat what you said. Right? This is an order. This is a command. Stand up and repeat yourself. What? But repeat yourself. But the teacher is quite generous or formal in their way of giving this order or giving this command. So the teacher says, would you mind standing up, repeating yourself? Would you mind standing up and repeating yourself? Stand up and repeat yourself. This is what the teacher means. All right. But the teacher is being quite formal. That's why he or she says, would you mind standing up and repeating yourself? All right. We have more examples. Would you mind telling us why you're late? The teacher is basically asking, tell us why you're late. Tell us why you're late. Right? Look at my expression. Do I look happy to you? No, I'm not. I'm angry, right? Would you mind telling us why you're late? Tell us why you're late. This is the question, right? Tell us why you're late. What is the reason you're late? Again, second example. Do you mind leaving the class right now? Do you mind leaving the class right now? That's an order. That's an order. Leave the class right now. Leave the class right now. Do you mind leaving the class right now? Would you mind leaving the class right now? Would you mind leaving the class right now? Right? Meaning, leave the class. Please go away. This is what it means. All right. So this is how we use the expression would you mind and do you mind. Right? Would you mind is more formal, more polite, and do you mind is less formal, less polite. But you can use either one. That is not a problem. All right. But now you know the technicalities. You know the situations where to use them. You know the structures. You know the context. You know everything. And I'm sure you'll be able to use these expressions going forward. All right. So that's all about today's lesson. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you loved it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Press that notification button as well so that every single time I publish a lesson, you get notified and you get to watch it right away. And if you have a question, any doubt, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys very soon. Till then, keep learning. Have fun. I'm out. Namaskar.